Welcome to the Deep Dive. We unpack fascinating ideas, distill knowledge from the sources you send us, and today we're diving into this really lively transcript. It's from a podcast called The Wife Chronicles, Defending My Man. The specific episode is Don't Play With My Man. And our mission, really, is to explore these, well, surprising, sometimes intense, and often pretty funny ways women react when their partner gets mocked or criticized.
Yeah.
It definitely touches on loyalty, partnership, and maybe, just maybe, a bit of theatrical defense. Okay, so let's get into this. What jumps out at you first?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at this source, it really captures something vivid, doesn't it? And humorous. It's a common dynamic, really. But it's not just what women do. It's the whole emotional journey, the tactics they use. What I find fascinating is just the sheer range of responses they talk about, from really subtle stuff to just completely explosive.
Explosive is definitely the word. The source, it sets the scene right away, talking about how things escalate. It flat out says a woman's reaction when her man gets mocked is never peaceful. And it describes this shift, going from a calm, maybe you should ignore them, to suddenly, who said that? I said, who said that? That changed, that speed? What's going on there?
Well, that quick shift is quite striking. It suggests a really deep protective instinct, doesn't it? Almost a primal response when their partner's honor feels threatened, like a switch flips.
Yeah, primal. And it's not just words, right? The source points out physical signs, like the woman might still be talking sweetly, but her earrings are already off, or even more if she stands up and ties that liso around her waist, that traditional fabric wrap. The source calls it the Kenyan battle uniform. And jokes, it means, I'm not fighting you spiritually, I'm fighting you physically. So it gets physical, or at least the threat is physical.
And that's fascinating, the nonverbal cues. They're not just warnings, are they? They're almost like performative acts. Taking off earrings, tying the lasso. These are really symbolic gestures. They signal, okay, I'm ready for a direct confrontation. It's about shifting the power dynamic right then and there. Communicating, without saying a word, I will defend him physically if I have to. It's quite a blend of culture and just raw human behavior.
Definitely. Okay, so beyond the physical signals, the source gives some amazing examples of the verbal strategies. Verbal gymnastics, you could say. Like, there's this story about a woman whose husband was getting roasted for being jobless. And she stands up and declares, unemployed. Excuse me, he's an entrepreneur in between ventures.
Right. And that's a perfect example of what you might call protective reframing, or maybe identity preservation. You spin the reality to protect his dignity, sure, but maybe also your own image as part of that couple. The source calls it delusion, which is funny, but psychologically. It's this interesting mix of, love, strategy, maybe even a bit of cognitive dissonance to keep that shared identity intact.
Protective reframing. I like that. But okay, then there's the other side. The source talks about a more aggressive tactic, deflection. Like when women get really mad defending their guy, they might just start bringing up things that have nothing to do with the argument. And the example is just brilliant. Like, you talk about my husband's weight, but your gas has been off for 3 weeks. Boiling water at your neighbor's house.
Oh, wow.
Or this one. At least my man is present. Where's yours? Oh, yeah, he left in 2009 and took the microwave. I mean, ouch. What's happening there psychologically?
Well, that's a classic, isn't it? It's sort of whataboutism, or even like an ad hominem attack, just shifted. You completely change the subject. You ignore the original criticism. You just, tear down the person making it. It collapses the boundaries of the argument. You start weaponizing totally unrelated stuff, old grievances maybe. It suggests that when the stakes feel really high, personally high, the goal isn't about winning the argument anymore. It's about completely discrediting the attacker. Full stop.
Yeah, it turns the tables completely. But okay, not all defenses are like that, right?
Yeah.
Not all loud. The source also describes the subtle defenders. These are the ones who don't yell. They just give that dead stare.
The stare.
And they might smile. Yeah. Then later send a 17-paragraph WhatsApp message titled, What You Won't Do. Often starting with something passive-aggressive like, as a woman of God, I held back, but let me educate you.
Yeah.
That's a whole different vibe.
It really is. And you could argue it's more calculated, more deliberate, using delayed written communication that lets you craft this really comprehensive takedown. Often, like you said, wrapped in this kind of pious language or moral instruction. It uses the permanence of text. Maybe it reaches more people. It lets you land these blows without the heat of the moment. It's almost like indirect aggression perfected.
Wow. And they even use proverbs, it says. Like, you don't throw stones when you live in a mabadi house.
Yeah.
Basically a tin shack. pointing out the accuser's own vulnerability.
Exactly. Glass houses, basically.
Right. But okay, it doesn't just stop with the partner defending. The source brings in the in-laws.
Yeah.
Apparently, if mama hears you mocked her son, wah, big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And this can even go public. Like she's suddenly on Facebook Live praying loud, Jehovah, they mock what you have anointed. Let them eat shame and drink confusion.
Yeah.
Even if, as the source jokes, bro can't even change a light bulb.
Yeah, and that connects to the bigger picture, doesn't it? It really underlines how, in many cultures, family honor is, well, it's communal. An attack on one person, especially a son, it's seen as an attack on the whole family, the whole unit's identity. And that Facebook Live example, that's powerful. Taking it public, calling on God, using social media, it amplifies everything. It's like public shaming meets spiritual warfare, all for family loyalty.
So after all this, the humor, the tactics, what's the deeper meaning here? The source does seem to genuinely appreciate this fierce loyalty. It says, big up to the women who hold their man down, even when the streets are dragging him through mud. It's celebrating that support.
It absolutely is. And that highlights something crucial, right? The importance of that unwavering support in a relationship, especially when you're facing criticism from outside. It speaks to that idea of partnership, that every king needs a little backup sometimes, even if it comes with side eyes and threats. That kind of loyalty, it's like the bedrock of resilience for a couple. It helps them face things together.
It is powerful. But, and this is important, the source gives some advice to the men too. It says, don't abuse that loyalty. It warns, just because she'll fight for you doesn't mean you should give her weekly reasons to fight. And the hosts plead, let her rest, bro. She can't be out here fighting trolls every Tuesday. And that's where the humor kind of stops. And it gets serious about responsibility in the relationship.
Exactly. That brings up the whole question of, reciprocity, respect. Responsibility, it goes both ways. Yes, fierce loyalty is amazing. It's admirable. But it needs to be earned, right? Not just taken for granted. If one partner is constantly stirring up trouble or drawing fire, it puts this huge unsustainable weight on the other. So a healthy partnership, it needs both people working towards, well, harmony, making sure that burden of defense isn't always falling on one person. It's about support, yeah, but also personal accountability.
So this whole deep dive into the Wife Chronicles, it's definitely given us a pretty vivid look, often hilarious, at how partners step up. You see everything from those physical cues, the escalation, those psychological twists, to these really quite sophisticated verbal tactics, even digital ones. It's clear loyalty shows up in a lot of different ways, sometimes primal, sometimes very strategic.
Indeed. It's a potent reminder, isn't it, of those deep protective instincts we have in relationships and how we all navigate, how the world sees our partners, that interplay between our individual selves and the uses of the couple.
So thinking about all this, what is this level of defense, this fierceness, what does it really tell you about the strength or maybe the dynamics inside a partnership? And maybe the bigger question for you listening, how do we balance that kind of unwavering loyalty with our own personal responsibility, to not constantly be the reason our loved ones have to go into battle? Definitely something to chew on.